Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Barry Floyd. I work for the charity Special Effect. We help people with disabilities access games and leisure activities by adapting hardware and software. Firstly, I'd like to thank all of the organisers of the Norwich Gaming Festival for inviting me along today to talk about this wonderful charity of ours, and for you for giving up part of your day for coming along to listen to me. Today I'm going to tell you why Special Effect was established, what we do, how we work, and I'm also going to talk a little bit about how to make technology more accessible. So, it was started by this chap, that's Dr. Mick Donegan, who is one of the world's leading authorities in assistive technology. He's an academic. He spent most of his career working with people with disabilities, including 20 years in the school for the people with disabilities in Birmingham. And throughout the time he worked in those places, he felt, although he worked in education, that an opportunity was being missed in terms of fun and leisure. And through nobody's fault of their own, obviously in this country, through carers or the state, people with disabilities' basic needs are being met. But they are very basic, so there was no inclusion for fun or games. So the person with the disability was really at the mercy of whatever the family or carers could do for them. And if they couldn't do that much for them, they ended up sitting and watching Jeremy Kyle and Loose Women or listening to the radio all day, which is no fun in anybody's book, really. So there was a serious side to the fun and leisure activities, though, that Mick realised is, in his experience, when people were given the opportunity to experience those two elements, rehabilitation improved, the quality of life improved, and their self-esteem improved as well. And that goes a long, long way to really improving things for people. Now, to us, we're a very small team. We're based in West Oxfordshire, and for us, Special Effect has been a labour of love. To Mick, it is an absolute way of life. He spends every waking hour doing what he does. And to the people that we work with, it gives so much value and improvement to their life. It's really worthwhile for all of us putting that effort into it. Here's the motley crew. This is us. We started in 2007 with Mick and the blonde-haired lady sat second from the left over there, working out of a living room. We started with a former England under-21 rugby player called Matt Hampson, who I'm not sure if you've got any rugby fans in here, but he was in the news because during a practice session a scrum collapsed and he had a high spinal injury that left him tetraplegic. And as Mick worked with Matt, Matt was making some demands on, I want to browse the internet using just my eyes, I want to email people just using my eyes, and actually I want to play games just using my eyes as well. And suddenly the penny dropped for Mick and said, right, we're starting this now. So we started off with 2 people, and in the first year we had an income of £20,000, and we were just helping Matt. Last year, I'll probably talk about it again later in the presentation, thanks to huge support from our local business community in Oxfordshire and massive support from the UK gaming industry and gaming community, we tipped £1 million, and we're certainly helping more than just one person there. I'll come on to that as well, though. Now we have a staff of 13, 9 of those are full-time, including myself. We are a team of multi-professional educationalists, occupational therapists and technology specialists, supported by a small number of pen pushers, fundraising and admin staff, people like me. As I said, we're based in West Oxfordshire. We work all over the UK, so I'll talk a little bit more about how we work in a moment, but we work from Inverness is the furthest we go north at the moment, up in Scotland, and we go as far south as Truro in Cornwall and the Channel Islands. We work in Carmarthen in Wales, right across to Lowestoft in Norfolk. And this is just a small selection of people that we've helped recently. Looking around, we've got young Arlo down there with a big button control. Arlo suffers from cerebral palsy. He doesn't have the motor function that we would have, so a joypad's very difficult for him to handle. So the big button control, that lends itself perfectly to his needs. Massive FIFA fan, just absolutely loves it. This little girl down here I know personally because she's an Oxford girl. Charlotte lost her lower arms and legs through meningitis when she was 3. She's 7 now. We've worked with her from day one. She's a little live wire. And we started off just using eye control and head control, which is the head mouse. Nowadays, she's got prosthetic limbs, and we've adapted a Wii controller. She loves dancing. So we've adapted a Wii controller by making it 2/3 less in weight. So she can actually have it strapped onto a prosthetic and have the same control. So many of the people that we've worked with have never had a chance to play a game before. They were born with a disability. Others have played games before and because of a progressive condition or an accident, or in a couple of cases because they've come back from the front line in Afghanistan and lost fingers and hands, want to get back into gaming. Both those guys, by the way, play Call of Duty. That's all they want to play, really, which to me is really ironic. But and so we will do whatever we can to get them back into gaming. So this is our Gavin helping little Charlotte there. She's actually got a mouse controller on her elbow there. They're playing a game called Peggle. That was a couple of years, about 3 years back. Excuse me. So although we have a fully equipped games room at our headquarters in Oxfordshire, most of the people that we work with are actually too unwell or not mobile enough to actually come down to Oxfordshire to play. We probably have about 15 people a month coming through the games room, and it's at that point, if I am in the office, the games room's just down the other end of the corridor from me, and for younger people coming in who have never played a game before, to hear the squeals of laughter and the fun they're having down there actually makes my job the best job in the world. It's brilliant. But for the majority of people, we actually travel out to work with them in their own homes. So usually people will look us up on the internet. A Google search of gaming and disability, I think, brings us up first. They'll contact us by email, sometimes by telephone, and we'll arrange an assessment visit. And by an assessment visit, we will have an occupational therapist and a technology specialist like Gavin here, who will go and work with a person in their own home and find out what movement they have available, what they want to play, and we'll leave them a setup. Once we've agreed that that's what they're comfortable with, we'll leave them a setup that they can then play with. Now, if they've got a condition that they were born with, a congenital condition, they might never need to change that setup. In the cases of the 2 lads that have come back from Afghanistan with injuries, the only time they'll really need to contact us again is to replace worn out hardware. But for a lot of the people that we work with, they've got progressive conditions, conditions like spinal muscular atrophy, motor neuron disease, and a lot more other sort of complex conditions like that. And we will have to keep going back to them from time to time to change the setup, because it just their condition robs them a bit more movement each time. We work in homes mainly, but we also work in schools if we're called upon. That's despite we don't get any government funding at all. All of our funding comes through private donations, through the gaming industry, through businesses, through the gaming community. More and more now we're getting called out to hospitals, so about 75% of our work is gaming, 25% of it is communications work, so it's people who have had a severe stroke and have been left paralysed, usually hospitalised flat on their back, often with a ventilator fitted so they can't speak. High spinal injuries, more and more now, right through to severe burns, and the severe burns are complex, especially if it's around the face, and it's affected the eyes, because obviously a lot of our work with communications with these people is through eye control, and the eye control does need to pick up the light from the retina in the eyes. So we're working wherever we're called, really. As I said, we get no government funding, and there's a very good reason for that. Is as soon as we start receiving statutory funding, we're starting to be governed by the government. And that's not that we don't like the government, we're completely neutral to it. We're not political at all. But the complications that brings for us is that once you start signing service level agreements, they start dictating the way we work, and we like to be independent. We're independent in absolutely everything we do. And that's from people from the games industry and hardware companies saying, can you promote our product? Actually, we can't. If it's a good product and it's at a price that people can afford, we will promote it. But it's coincidental. It will just be featured on our YouTube videos maybe, but we're not going to go out of our way to promote it. And likewise, with government bodies, we're not going to promote them either or to sign their service level agreements. It's not that we're missing out on money, it's just that we can get the money in from the gaming industry and the gaming community and private individuals who actually see the sense in what we're doing and give us the money with no strings attached. They trust us to spend that money properly, and we do. Sorry, I pressed the wrong button. So, why do we do what we do? Well, we do what we do to put fun into the lives of people, where fun is actually a rare and precious commodity. We help them compete. So just because somebody's body isn't working the way they want it to work, it doesn't mean they've lost their sense of competition. It doesn't mean to say they've lost their sense of fun, and it certainly doesn't mean to say they've lost their sense of humour. We also help people communicate, so it doesn't only stop at games. We do web browsing, we do email, so people can actually email from an hospital bed. We're working with one gentleman in his 60s at the moment, previously quite a high flyer businessman who went on holiday a few months back, skiing holiday, and had high spinal injury, ended up in one of the local hospitals, and he's actually running his business from his hospital bed using the eye gaze technology that we've provided with him. So there's a whole range of boxes that we can tick. And of course, we can also get people reading Kindle, so if they enjoy a good book, we can get them using Kindle by eye control as well. But mostly, we do what we do, and particularly the gaming community will understand it, is just to make sure that we can actually give people the opportunity to play games like we play games. And it's hard to think of a better way to include such severely disabled people in a mainstream social activity. And let's face it, most of us nowadays, even outside of the Norwich Gaming Festival, are gamers in some way or another. From the people stood on the trains in London playing, I don't know what they do, Clash of Clans and golfing games, right through to people like me who sit at home at the weekends playing Elite Dangerous. We all game in one respect or another. And that's been evident in the huge amount of fundraising that's been done for us. I'm not sure if has anybody heard of the Game Blast event that we hold. We hold that every year. This was the third one, and Game Blast is supported by the industry but mainly by the gaming community. Jagex, the makers of RuneScape, are really behind it. Game, who are here today raising money for us, have really got behind it this year, and they raised £195,000 plus for us just over 2 days back in February. So our people understand why we do what we do. Communicating that to your average, I don't know, NSPCC or Oxfam supporter, who are a different demographic to most gamers, is slightly more difficult, but it can be done. I mean, most people know somebody with a disability, and it's when you start explaining and showing them the videos and seeing the laughter and all the fun they're having, it's kind of, oh yeah, well, my friend Jesse's got a son with cerebral palsy, I'd like him to be able to do that as well. They really see the value in it. So there are hundreds and hundreds, thousands of reasons around the world in terms of people with disabilities who'd like to game, who'd like the reasons that we do what we do. But I'm going to show you one good reason when Daniel gets up here right now. So this is a young chap from Arlo who has just discovered the joys of FIFA for the first time.
I'm Ruby, I'm Arlo's mum. Arlo's been doing most of his gaming on his laptop, but he's very limited as to what he can control. He mainly uses just one hand, so he wasn't making the most of his games, getting the most out of it. So I started having a look on the internet to see if there was anything, and that's when I came across Special Effect. Arlo, sadly, in common with a lot of disabled children, doesn't have the same kind of social experiences as people that don't have disabilities, and gaming offers a platform that you can play with other children successfully. It's going to change his leisure time very positively, really properly compete and engage with other children in a way that is otherwise almost impossible. He really loves computer games. Arlo's extremely happy and excited about being able to access his games.
Yes! High, high!
So Arlo's got a brother who's about 18 months younger than him, and when the friends came round to the house before he got into gaming and we were able to help him, the Arlo's friends would typically go out the conservatory doors and kick a football around out in the back garden, and although they'd come round to see Arlo originally, there's only so much Arlo could do in terms of fun. And they would head off and have a game with the younger brother who is completely able-bodied. Now Arlo's got the FIFA up and running, his friends stay indoors with him and they're quite happy to play. So he's a lad that's fairly local to us, he's Banbury. But like I say, we'll work absolutely anywhere in the UK at all. So now, helping to make technology accessible. I have to say, you're going to have to forgive me for the cue cards because this isn't a subject matter that I'm normally talking about. So there are a lot of ways of making technology accessible. I've kind of like learnt most of it by osmosis almost, just by talking to our service delivery team and their occupational therapists. And basically just watching our videos, because if every single video you watch of ours, there's very few cases the same, very few setups the same. Because people have different needs, they're playing different games, they have different physical limitations. And so, really, although I'm not accustomed to talking about accessibility, I'm more of a general, this is Special Effect, we're great sort of guy. Our service delivery team are travelling the length and breadth of the country every day, making technology accessible in our way. And what we'd like to do, really, is get the gaming industry and certainly games developers behind us and helping us to make things more accessible, and I'll come on to that in a second. So what sort of games are we making accessible? Well, all day I've been out in the main area there with I-controlled Dirt 3, the Codemasters rally racing game. So basically what we've done is set up a grid that sits behind the Dirt 3 game, and using a two-way camera, picking up the light from the retina of your eyes and being able to control the car on the rally track, and it lends itself perfectly to that. It's quite a simple grid. We could do anything from that to one of the more complicated eye control games we do is Minecraft. The reason it being more complicated is because the grids have to be much tighter to accommodate the small areas that have to be picked out. Right through to what would probably look more crude versions of making games accessible, like chin-controlled Mario Karts. People with cerebral palsy have the steadiest part of their body is usually their head, where they don't have the motor function that we do in their hands, making the joypad that more difficult. We can get it set up so they can control the direction of the Mario Kart with their chin, and the drift and the accelerate with the big button control. right through to face and eye control FIFA, you name it, we'll have a go at adapting it. There's very little that we haven't been able to adapt so far. Sorry. So this is an example of a friend of mine, Tom, who was going to say what our work means to him and how the accessibility that we've provided, what it means to him, just so you see the value of it. Cheers, Daniel. I know Tom personally, I'm a friend of his, I've made friends with him through work. I'm not a bad FIFA player, Tom absolutely whips me at FIFA every time. I've just stopped playing with him now. I go down and watch Froome Town football with him, we're both big football fans. It's a terrible standard of football, but he's good company, so he more than makes up for it. And his brother's a really good lad and not a bad FIFA player either, but Tom is a really, really good example. Tom's got spinal muscular atrophy. His physical disability is only going to get worse. And he's a great example of how we work differently from a lot of other charities in terms of technology, is we will be there for as long as they carry on gaming and they want us to be there. Tom plays an awful lot of Battlefront as well. When I first got to know Tom about 18 months ago, he was just using adapted hardware, the controls to play. His condition has deteriorated to a degree now where he's having to double that up with eye control now as well. But every time he loses a bit of movement, we'll go down there, or more often than not, he'll come up to us and we'll help him through with that. And it's just adapting that accessibility, really, and taking it a stage further. The Global Games Room. It should be the Global Games Room pilot project. So up until now, we operate two main areas of work. We operate the loan library, which is the process I've just described of going out and looking at a person's needs and leaving them a hardware setup. The idea behind that is the reason it's called the loan library is that when the person is able to afford that setup for themselves, we'll help them buy the big buttons and the switches at the cheapest possible price, and then we can have the hardware back in so we can go out and use it with somebody else. Now, if somebody's really, really strapped for cash and they can't afford it, we would never take the equipment back. So the actual business plan that we work to is bonkers, if you look at it in clinical terms, because we don't charge for any of our work at all. If somebody can't afford something, we're not going to take quite expensive equipment back. But luckily, we've got supporters who actually see the value in that and wouldn't want us to take it back. In many ways, if we were hard-nosed and started reclaiming equipment of people that were too poor to afford it, it's actually worse than having never met us before, because you've actually given them something only to grasp it back out of their hands. So we like working in that way, and we'll carry on working in that way. Now, the other area is the Stargaze, which is a lot of the people that we work with in hospitals. So that's all of the eye control stuff. Now we're just about to launch the Global Games Room pilot project. we've been working with a developer called Sun and Moon down in Bristol with the aim, and it's very, very close now, of making, to begin with, simple games available online. So there'll be a bolt-on to our website where people with a disability can access it, and they can play a range of games using eye control and one switch controls. What it means is we're no longer restricted to work to people, benefiting people with disabilities living in the UK. It's a worldwide thing. Anybody who can access the internet can go on and play these games. So Eduardo in Argentina, who has fallen off his bike and suffered a high spinal injury, can play a game of chess against Abigail in Brisbane, who was born with cerebral palsy. So it's just opening up the whole accessibility to the entire world. And we're starting off with the simple games. We will build up the complexity, but often the more complex games, your Call of Duties, your Elite Dangerous, it's just too much of a leap for people to make straight away. So over time we'll build them up. Some people obviously will never be able to play those using eye gaze and one switch, but we want to get them to a level where they've got a huge range of games to choose from. So how can developers help? Well, there's nothing mysterious really about making games accessible. It's a series of assists, and it's putting as many assists as possible into a game. Probably the biggest or the most beneficial assist that I can highlight is the EA putting the 2-button FIFA. So their intention wasn't for people with disabilities at all. It was so they could open up their game to young kids and old blokes like me who want to play their sons at FIFA. Just makes it much easier. I play full control, but it helps us hugely having that two button on there, because it just makes everything much easier to adapt. Like I say, completely unintentional on their part. They love us for the fact that we've actually highlighted them and we can use their modifications. Obviously, you still can't go online and use the two button controller. Should just add that. But for people like Tom, playing it in his own home is plenty enough anyway. And like I say, it's a huge step forward. So in an ideal world, all games developers would consider accessibility when developing their software, but whether it be through cost effectiveness or simply not knowing where to start with their game, they just don't. So have we got any games developers or people open to go into games development in the room? Oh great, okay. So for you, or if you know games developers at all and talk to them a lot, if you feel interested in making your games more accessible, please do contact us. We offer independent and totally free advice, whether you choose to take it or not. I know everybody's under pressure with time deadlines and cost, but at least you'll hear from probably the UK's experts on accessibility, and can take whatever advice we give and hopefully adapt some of it, but if not, at least see it from an accessibility point of view. And the great thing is that sometimes it actually takes very little to make a game more accessible, and by doing that, it's a huge leap forward. And you, like EA, you can open up your game to a whole new audience, thousands of people around the world. Which just leaves me to say, thank you very much. If you do have any questions, I shall be out in the main area, or please do fire them at me now. If I can't answer them right away, I will find out an answer, and if I can take some details off you, I can get back to you. But thanks very much for listening to me. I hope it's been useful to you and I haven't bumbled my way through it too much. And enjoy the rest of your day.